So tonight I would like to talk about the opposition there is between techniques and feelings. I had a conversation while I was in Berkeley for my son's graduation. I had a conversation with a teacher, an art teacher there, and he asked me, oh, I heard that you paint too, that's wonderful. And I told him, you know what, I paint, but I regret that I never went to the university to learn art and painting, because I have the feeling that I don't have all the technique that I should have to paint. Maybe I would feel more comfortable to paint. I went to the university, but not to learn art. I was learning economics, which is completely different. And I had a knowledge later. I attended several, I would say training, I don't know how to call that. Yes, it's kind of training in the Beaux-Arts studio in Paris. And also I was going in a studio where an artist was teaching. His name is Jean-Charles Yahish, a very good artist, and he was teaching really well, so I learned some stuff. I also went to the IPEDEC. It's a school, but it's more for home decor. It's to paint on the walls, and I learned how to paint imitation of marbles and wood, things like that. I attended a lot of trainings with Sennelier, with Polyvine, with Burda, with an English brand named Patina. Polyvine was a part of Patina was a part of Polyvine actually. I learned a lot of things also with craftsmen who taught me a lot of things, like les frères Nordin, for example. Les frères Nordin, it's the Nordin brothers. They make products for the wood, and they taught me, not the frères Nordin, but the people working there. They taught me a lot of things. So I have a knowledge, but not I didn't go to school when I was young, after the high school, to learn art. And I had the feeling that something was lacking, and maybe that I was not allowed to be a true artist because I didn't have that. And the teacher there, he is a teacher in a university, he told me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. What is important is that you paint. The technique, you can learn that by practicing. And it's true, because I learned a lot by practicing. It's crazy how much I learned. I'm still learning. I'm learning every day. But he told me the most important is the subject, what you put on your painting, the feelings, the spirit. What is the purpose of what you are doing? And I was stunned, because it was like if I was listening to a Mark Hollis interview, you know, where he's absolutely saying that.
Yeah, you know, my belief about art is that art is open to everyone. I mean, you know, the thing of technique doesn't come into anything. The thing of chance and randomness and spirit is definitely the most important thing. So that's the way we worked. It was all to spirit, you know. We all just got a lot of gin, got totally out of it, and then made it.
And I know that. And why is it true for someone else and not for me? That's ridiculous. And I think that this teacher is right. The most important thing when you create, if it's in a painting, even if it's not on a painting, but it can be in music or in anything, the most important thing is why you do your art, why you do that. You must have a purpose to do that.
En ce qui concerne le processus de fabrication d'un album, l'important est d'abord de savoir quelles sont les raisons pour lesquelles tu fais cet album. Je ne pense pas qu'il faille faire un album pour le principe. Il faut qu'il y ait un but.
Doing a painting just for doing a painting, I don't see the point. That's why I didn't paint during 9 years, because I had nothing to say, or nothing to show, or nothing to talk about. And it was really hard because nothing was interesting or fascinating enough to make me paint, until I listened to Tok Tok music again, and then woo, everything came back, and I thought, wow, I have a very good topic here, that's very interesting. And I still think it's very interesting. You know, I started painting again like 6 months ago, 7 months ago, something like that. And I have still the feeling that I'm at the very beginning, and it's the case because I don't paint enough, I work too much, I don't have the time to paint enough, but no way that I stop. I will find some time. I found some time to do that, and I can tell you it was not easy to find some time to do that, but sometimes it was like, I have to do it, I need, it's a need, it must be a need, it must be something that you can't live without it, you know. So that's why I wanted to talk about interviews, Mark Hollis interviews. I'm very interested in technique, maybe because I didn't learn the technique originally, so I'm always very interested in how another painter is doing. It does interest me, because I can get inspired by his or her way of doing. Same thing with music. I don't make music myself, well, almost not, but I'm still interested in how a composer is going to create his music, how he's going to record it, what instruments he uses, if he uses more digital instruments or rather acoustic instruments, or how many musicians, or how he recorded his voice, or how he got some echo on his voice, or things like that. It does interest me.
Je voulais juste avoir une approche acoustique parce que j'aime le son d'un instrument acoustique et son apparence physique. Je voulais enregistrer de façon à ce que ce soit le plus réaliste possible afin de retranscrire le vrai son et les particularités de l'instrument ainsi que celle de la personne qui jouait de cet instrument. Je voulais que tous les petits bruits autour fassent partie de l'enregistrement.
But there is something that you can get inspired of. It's the subject of what you are doing. The subject must be your own. My subject is not what Mark Hollis is saying. My subject is Mark Hollis' music and spirit. That is my subject. But Mark Hollis is talking about something else in his music. I don't have the same subject as Mark Hollis. He is my topic, he is my subject. His way of creating his spirit, his music, talks to me and tells me what to put on my canvas. So that's completely different. I have friends who are going to paint angels and flowers. Okay, that is something that I can do in home decor, but not on a canvas. Or if I paint flowers and angels, I must have a very good reason to do it. Because when you do a painting like that, it's not in the purpose to do some home decor. It's really in the purpose of saying something to the world. So when you paint something like that, you say something. So I found this very interesting interview that I didn't know before, and I found that on internet by typing techniques and feelings and Mark Hollis, and I found that, and I'm very glad that I found this interview that I could listen to on Facebook and not on YouTube. but you can also just read it if you can't have access to Facebook or whatever. Anyway, it's the name is I will give you the link below. The name is Richard Skinner interview with Mark Hollis on Spirit of Eden. It was made in October 1988, so it's really not new. But you know what? We don't care if it's not new because it's so valid now. He could have said that 2 days ago. So I'm not going to read the whole interview because the whole interview is not about my subject today, but I'm just going to read you the part which are the most important regarding my subject. So the journalist, so his name, as I was saying, is Richard Skinner. The journalist says, you've described your music actually as a reaction against what's going on in other people's music at the moment. What is wrong, do you think, with other people's music today? And Mark Hollis answers, what does answer Mark Hollis? Tell me, please. He always wants to be in my videos. Okay, so Mark Hollis answers, well, all it is as a generalization. I think the trend is far too much towards single and far too much toward the sort of technicality of music rather than the actual spirit of music. You know, like I say, the most important thing of this album, so he was speaking about Spirit of Eden. So the most important thing of this album above everything to me is just that he is as feeling within it. It's sort of like, you know, maybe like say the first thing that I ever learned when I started making records was that if you went in and you make a demo of a song, it would inevitably be better than the finished recording regardless of the cost. So all this album really is about is just trying to catch these moments from people as they first emerge rather than them being sort of dictated parts. So that is something very important what he says just now. In another interview that you can find on YouTube, which is Mark Hollis on music, you know, it's on the Danish TV, I think he did this interview, and he was saying then, the magic of the first take, when you improvise and you play something for the first time.
When you improvise and you play something for the first time, you kind of play it at its peak, and if you kind of like play something and then you think, oh, I like that, and then you replay it, you never quite get it. It's like the thing of demoing. You know, if you demo a track, no matter how badly you try to demo it, there will always be a quality within it that you subsequently would try to recreate, which you shouldn't do.
Same thing. That's true. A demo as a draft, sometimes my drafts are better than the painting itself. When you demo in music, and it's true, I could check that, not only for me, but all the people who worked around me, my ex-husband, my son, my father, my stepfather, my mother, they are all in music. Every time there was demoing and doing something for the first time, it was the best. And it's strange because the technique was not at its peak then. I mean, when you do a demo, you are not automatically at your best, technically speaking. But the spirit is there, the intention is there, the freshness, the spontaneity is there. And when you do it again, you never get the same. It's never as good. And it shows, it proves that the most important is not the technique, but the spirit, the feelings, the intention, what you wanted to say at first. And it's true for a lot of things. Actually, I remember my ex-husband was composing a song, but he was not doing the song completely. He was just doing a sample, just one part and the chorus, and that was it. And I was telling him all the time, please do the song, the demo completely, because it's just when it's the best. Then when he was trying to do it by a clean way, perfect, it lost everything. So it's completely true what he's saying here. I think we couldn't say it better. And you know, usually when you redo it by a clean way and perfectly, and you put more cost on it, it should be better, but it's not. So then he says, yeah, that is incredible. They were talking about how they did it. They asked a lot of musicians to come, different musicians, and it was not automatically the most technically perfect. For him, the behavior, the attitude of the musician was more important than the technique.
You know, technique has never been an important thing to me. Feeling is above, always has been and always will be above technique. So it's like, you know, a lot of the melodies that exist within this album are only like one note or two notes. It's no great hardship to actually play it, but it's just a question of whether, you know, it sounded right at the time. It's like quite often, you know, when people are in playing, the stuff that we will get on with best is the, you know, the most simplistic stuff.
So they were asking them to play on a few instruments which were already recorded, and to play on it, and they recorded a lot without telling them what to do. They were free to do what they wanted, and then they kept only a small part of it, what they liked the best, not automatically what was the best technically, but what was the best emotionally, and more fresh, or more exactly how it should be for this album. And sometimes they were not putting the piece of music where it was, for the part where it was intended. I mean, someone played, for example, some guitar on a specific piece, and they took this guitar and put it on another piece, maybe something completely different. And that is absolutely incredible. The journalist says it was probably a nightmare to do that, because judgment can change. The perfect take for today can be the one that you throw away tomorrow sometimes. It's true that sometimes you change your mind. Something you liked before, you hate it the next day. So Mark Hollis answers, well, I mean, you see, in terms of the take, you see, the only way that a sort of take situation occurred was just in the very basic laying down on the track, where sort of like, you know, maybe three of us would just put the basic down. From that point onward, you know, there is no take. You see, this is the one reason why I don't think an album, the way this is made, could have existed in an earlier time, because it is only because of the advent of this sort of digital recording technology that you can get away with the way this album has been constructed. Yes, which is just that thing of giving people absolute freedom. Being able to take the smallest amount of what they play, but not even necessarily using it where they did play it. That's incredible. You know, putting it elsewhere in the album, and then, you know, being able to make this very careful construction of arrangement, but absolutely everything that is played is fresh and from that person. It's like a kind of cooperative of musicians. So that is incredible, because that is exactly what I do when I do a collage. I'm going to take an image from something and I'm going to put it in another environment, in something which has nothing to do with what it was originally. And I find that fascinating. I think it's absolutely fascinating. When you create, I knew we could do that in collage, in fine art, but I couldn't imagine that we could do that in music. And it was probably a very hard work to gather all these elements, like a mosaic, actually, you know. You take pieces and you put them like that. I understand why it took them 14 months to do. That's crazy. So the journalist is talking about how many musicians were playing. He says some 16 musicians plus the choir of Chelmsford Cathedral. Yes, I don't know if you listen to Spirit of Eden, but it's very, I would say, very, I wouldn't say religious, because he doesn't speak about religion, but we have the feeling that he met God. He saw God on this album. There is, I think it was recorded in a church. I think I read it was recorded in a church. Yeah, it's very full of spirit. Of course, it's Spirit of Eden. Yes, right. But I mean, you know, we must have like easily 50 musicians in that tried for a place on this album. But you know, it's really not a question of technique. This is the really important thing about the attitude of this album. It is just purely like a question of understanding the feel of this music, not a thing of technique at all. I really do think you could have a 5-year-old child could easily have got on this album, providing, you know, he understood it. He says another thing then: I've always liked the idea that things that oppose each other can coexist. That's all it is. I absolutely love the way, the spirit and the way he created this album, Spirit of Eden, and what he's saying in this interview. I think it is fascinating. It's fascinating because I think it's exactly how the music, the thing should be created. You know, I think, so I'm talking wider now, I think that I couldn't paint during 9 years because there was no feeling around me anymore. My ex-husband left and I was alone, not alone because I was with my son, but I mean I had no love story. I mean, I had some love with my sons. I have 2 sons, but not, I didn't have someone to love me. I mean, a man to love me. And I have the feeling, I understood that in Berkeley, I have the feeling that I can create only when I feel love around me, and I feel loved by someone. I'm still alone. I still have nobody. But when you listen to Mark Hollis music, or talk music, but especially Mark Hollis music and maybe Tim Friese-Greene music, probably because they did it together, but I still can hear that also in the Mark Hollis album where Tim Friese-Greene is not. I think what is the most striking in this music, it's not how the technique is fabulous and incredible, even if it is actually, but what I feel, it's the love given in this music. I have the feeling that I receive some love. So of course it's not a love directed to me personally, because they don't know me, and when they created that they didn't have me in mind, of course not. But they put some love in this music and I can feel it. And every time I listen to Mark Hollis or Tok Tok, I can feel this love, and it nourishes my inspiration, and then I can put something on a canvas and paint and give a message or translate something, because I receive something that I can give to. I wouldn't have thought that my trip to Berkeley to go to my son's graduation would make me understand something like that. But I think it's very important. That's why I recommend that you listen to The Spirit of Eden, that you listen to Laughing Stock, that I listened today in my shop, and I really think that if I could be in love with an album, it would probably be Laughing Stock. This album is absolutely incredible. Really, it's difficult to describe with words. And the Mark Hollis album, the solo album, he's not alone to do it, but he's not with the other members of Tok Tok, is also absolutely incredible, and very intimate, a very personal feeling, and we can also feel the love in this album too.
Je voulais aussi que, parce que je pense que c'est très important en matière de musique, qu'en passant l'album, pendant une demi-heure, on puisse se transporter mentalement.
You mentally remove yourself somewhere, you know. I kind of sort of relate.
Je le rapproche un peu avec le yoga, parce que je pense que c'est ça. C'est le fait de voyager mentalement, se retrouver dans un état un peu en dehors de soi.
I don't know if it does interest you. If you create, it probably interests you. If you don't create, you must think, what is she talking about? It's so boring. I'm sorry, I don't find that boring. I find that fascinating. For me, it's fascinating that someone is able to talk about it by such very natural and true way. I love the end of this interview. He made me smile. He always makes me smile at a point. At the end, the journalist says, does the way the music has been mixed in terms of having these violent contrasts in style and volume, is this all part of the message, do you think? And Mark Hollis answers, right, sure, well, I just think it's part of the way a record should be put together. That's all. I think it is, you know. And the journalist says, that's a very simple answer to a complicated question. And Mark Hollis says, yes, mainly because I didn't understand the question. But you know what? The journalist at the beginning of the interview says something very nice about that. He says, I absolutely love the ending of the interview. He's so refreshingly honest and disarmingly self-depreciating. That's nice to say that, and it's true that it's fresh and honest, but I don't think it's self-depreciating. I don't think it's that. I read the question. I'm not sure I understood either. It's just that the question is maybe not very well asked, and Mark Hollis was just honest enough to say that he didn't understand the question. but he was right to say so, because the question is not easy to understand. Well, I understand the words, but I don't understand the meaning behind the words. The question was a little weird. But maybe Mark Hollis and I, we are not intellectual enough to answer this kind of question. I don't know. I will give you the link of this interview. I can't read everything, otherwise the video would last 2 hours, because I always have something to say about it. But I recommend that you read it if you are interested in Spirit of Eden and the way it was made, because this interview is really, really, really very, very interesting. So I will see you in my next video. I will tackle very soon my new painting. I didn't do it before because first I was not in Los Angeles. Couldn't paint. I was in Berkeley. Second, when I came back, I had to catch up all what I didn't do while I was in Berkeley, and it was a lot, and I'm tired of working so hard for not so much results actually, and not being able to do what I love. But I will continue. Bye.